"A gift for you," the alien woman said. Her voice was as delicate as the first snowflake of winter, yet it carried the weight of a promise not to be taken lightly. Standing in the dim glow of my cabin's lantern, she looked ethereal, tall and slender, with a faintly shimmering silver hue to her skin. Her large, luminous eyes pleaded for help, their intensity cutting through the biting wind that rattled the shutters outside. I was no stranger to the brutal winters of the Siberian wilderness, but never in my wildest dreams had I imagined encountering an alien, let alone one seeking refuge from the cold. Shivering inside my thick coat, I hesitated. This could be some elaborate trick, but the desperation in her gaze pushed those doubts aside. Whoever or whatever she was, she needed help. "Come in," I said, stepping aside to let her into the warmth of my cabin. She moved with an eerie grace, almost gliding over the creaky wooden floor before settling near the crackling fireplace. Her name, as best as I could decipher from the melodic tones she produced, sounded something like Eris. She explained, perhaps projected into my mind, that she had come from a distant star system. Her vessel had malfunctioned, crash landing in the frozen forest a few miles away. The cold here was unlike anything she had ever experienced, and her physiology was ill-equipped to endure it. "What kind of gift are we talking about?" I asked, half joking, trying to mask my unease. Eris tilted her head, her almost translucent hair catching the firelight. "Knowledge," she answered. "Something that will change your life." I nodded, unsure whether to be excited or terrified. "Let's start with keeping you warm first." Over the next few days, I did my best to help Eris adjust to her temporary refuge. I lent her spare blankets, my thickest jackets, and even fashioned a makeshift heater from old parts in the cabin. In return, she shared glimpses of her advanced technology, teaching me how to purify water with a small handheld device and repair electronics using a gel-like substance she carried. Each revelation was more astonishing than the last. In the evenings, as the blizzards howled outside, we communicated. Sometimes through her melodic tones, sometimes through the images she projected into my mind. She spoke of her home, a world bathed in perpetual twilight, where crystalline trees stretched toward the sky and oceans shimmered like liquid gemstones. Her people valued harmony and innovation above all else, their lives deeply connected to the rhythms of their planet. "Why did you come here?" I asked one night, curiosity gnawing at me. Eris's expression darkened. "Exploration," she murmured, "but also necessity. Our resources are fading. We seek new worlds to learn from, to perhaps share in mutual survival." There was sorrow in her voice, a weight I couldn't fully comprehend. Yet despite her alien nature, I felt an undeniable connection forming between us. Her struggles, though from another world, carried a profound humanity. One morning, I noticed a change. Eris was weaker. Her normally shimmering skin had dulled. Her movements sluggish, the cold, she whispered. "It is consuming me." Panic gripped me. I had done everything I could, but it wasn't enough. Desperate, I made a decision. I would take her back to her ship. Perhaps something there could save her. The journey through the snow-laden forest was grueling. Eris leaned heavily on me, her body trembling with every step. But I pressed forward, driven by a mix of fear and determination. After what felt like hours, we finally reached the crash site. Her ship, a sleek silver pod, was partially buried in the snow, its smooth surface glinting faintly in the pale sunlight. Eris guided me to a panel and, with a series of precise gestures, activated it. The ship hummed to life, warmth radiating from within. I helped her inside and watched as she accessed a compartment filled with strange vials and intricate devices. She applied a glowing substance to her skin, and almost instantly some of her color returned. Relief washed over her face. "Thank you," she said, her voice stronger now. You have done more for me than I could have hoped." Before I could respond, a sudden tremor shook the ground. The sky darkened as a massive shadow descended overhead. Another ship, far larger and far more imposing, hovered above the treetops. Eris's expression turned to one of alarm. "They've come for me," she murmured, her tone grim. "Not my people. They are hunters, scavengers. They track us across galaxies." My heart pounded. "What do we do?" She looked at me, her luminous eyes filled with resolve. "Hide. I will lead them away." "No," I said firmly. "We face them together." She hesitated, then nodded. "Very well, but be warned, human. Their technology is far beyond your understanding." The hunters descended, their forms monstrous and mechanical, radiating menace. Eris and I stood side by side, a fragile alliance against an overwhelming force. She activated a device that projected a shimmering barrier around us. But the hunters quickly began to probe its weaknesses. "I cannot hold this for long," she warned. Thinking fast, I grabbed a flare gun from my pack. It wasn't much, but it was something. As the hunters breached the barrier, I fired the flare directly at one of them. The explosion startled them, buying us a precious moment. Eris seized the opportunity, unleashing a wave of energy from her device, sending the hunters reeling. "Run!" she shouted. We sprinted back into the forest, the hunters in pursuit. Eris led us to a hidden alcove where she activated another device. A portal shimmered into existence before us. "This will take me home," she said, turning to face me. "You cannot come." I felt a pang of sadness. "Will I ever see you again?" Eris placed a hand on my shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. "Perhaps," she said softly. "But for now, take this." She handed me a small, crystalline object. "It holds the knowledge I promised. Use it wisely." Before I could say another word, she stepped into the portal. It closed behind her, leaving me alone in the silent forest. Back at my cabin, I examined the crystal. It pulsed faintly in my hands, and as I held it, images and information flooded my mind. Blueprints for advanced technology, solutions to environmental crises, concepts that seemed light years ahead of anything on Earth. Eris had kept her promise. Her gift was beyond anything I could have imagined. Yet as I gazed into the night, I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever encounter her again. For now, I had a new purpose, to use her knowledge to make a difference, to honor the trust she had placed in me, and perhaps one day, to repay her in kind. As the seasons passed, I began to implement the wisdom Eris had left behind. The crystal's insights transformed my once isolated existence. I introduced innovations that improved life for the surrounding communities. Renewable energy systems, advanced medical treatments, and sustainable agricultural practices were only the beginning. Word spread, and soon, people from distant places came to learn of the miraculous advancements. I told them little of the crystal's true origin, simply calling it a stroke of inspiration. Yet deep down, I knew the truth. This was Eris's legacy, a bridge between worlds. Years passed, and, though I never saw her again, I often looked up at the stars, wondering if she watched from her distant home. The bond we had shared, however brief, had left an indelible mark on me. Years passed. The knowledge Eris had given me began to reshape the world. What started in my small, isolated cabin spread to entire cities. Renewable energy, cures for diseases, and sustainable advancements that had once seemed impossible. I had kept my promise, using the crystal's wisdom to help humanity without revealing its true origin. But despite all the progress, I often found myself gazing at the night sky, wondering if Eris was out there, watching. Then one winter night, everything changed. I was in my cabin reviewing the latest project, a revolutionary energy grid inspired by the crystal's blueprints, when a strange hum filled the air. It was faint at first, like a distant echo, but soon it grew into a vibration that shook the walls. Stepping outside, I saw it, a familiar silver glow cutting through the darkness of the snowy forest. My heart pounded. Could it be her? I grabbed my coat and ran towards the light, my breath visible in the freezing air. As I approached, the glow intensified, revealing a sleek, floating vessel. But something was different. This ship wasn't Eris's small escape pod. It was larger, more intricate, its surface pulsing with patterns of shifting light. A hatch slid open with a soft hiss, and a figure emerged. But it wasn't Eris. The being before me was taller, its form encased in an elegant suit that shimmered like liquid metal. Its eyes, black and endless, studied me with quiet intensity. Then, in a voice that resonated inside my mind rather than through the air, it spoke. You hold the knowledge of Eris. You have used it well. I took a step forward, swallowing my apprehension. Who are you? The being tilted its head slightly. An emissary, a guardian of the knowledge she entrusted to you. A sudden chill that had nothing to do with the winter air crept over me. Is she okay? There was a pause. Then, finally, the answer came. She is in danger. My breath caught. Where is she? The emissary gestured toward the ship. If you wish to save her, come with me. I looked back at my cabin, at the world I had built with Eris's knowledge. If I left now, there was no telling if I would ever return. But the choice was clear. Without hesitation, I stepped forward. Take me to her. The hatch closed behind me, and with a quiet hum, the ship lifted into the sky, vanishing into the stars. The ship soared through space, the stars stretching into endless streams of light. The emissary piloted with precision, speaking in his calm, echoing voice. Eris is being held on a frozen world at the edge of the galaxy, he explained. The hunters chased her there. The planet is a death trap, colder than anything you can imagine. If we don't reach her soon, she won't survive. A chill ran down my spine. I had once saved Eris from the harsh cold of Earth's winter. But this sounded far worse. After what felt like an eternity, the planet came into view. A massive, icy wasteland. Its surface was cracked and jagged, covered in endless glaciers and violent snowstorms. The ship shuddered as it entered the turbulent atmosphere. We landed in the middle of a blizzard. The wind howled and the temperature dropped instantly. Even through my insulated suit, I could feel the biting cold. The emissary handed me a small, glowing device. This will help regulate your body temperature, but Eris, she has nothing. We must hurry. We moved through the endless ice fields, our boots crunching against the frozen ground. The hunter's ship loomed in the distance, its dark metallic form standing in contrast to the white landscape. Using the cover of the storm, we slipped inside undetected. And there she was. Eris was encased in a containment field, her shimmering, skin now pale and dull. Frost coated her suit, and she barely clung to consciousness. I rushed to her. Eris, hold on, I'm getting you out of here. Her eyes flickered open, weak but filled with recognition. You came for me? Of course I did, I said, determination burning in my chest. The emissary disabled the energy field, and Eris collapsed into my arms. She was freezing, colder than I had ever felt before. Her body trembled violently. The cold is taking me, she whispered, her voice barely audible. No, I said fiercely. I won't let that happen. The hunters had spotted us. Alarms blared. We had no time. Lifting Eris, I sprinted through the corridors, the emissary covering our escape. As we reached the exit, a blast of icy wind nearly knocked me back. The storm had grown worse. We can't make it to the ship in this, I shouted. The emissary hesitated, then handed me another device, a small metallic sphere. "Throw this. It will create temporary shelter." I did as he said. The device hit the ground and expanded into a glowing energy dome, shielding us from the brutal winds. Inside, it was warm, but Eris was still fading. I tore off my insulated coat and wrapped it around her, pulling her close to share my body heat. "Stay with me, Eris. You're not dying here." Her breath was shallow, her body weak. Then I remembered her own technology. Fumbling through her gear, I found a vial of the glowing substance she had used before. Praying it would work, I gently applied it to her skin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, her color returned. Her body stopped shaking. She took a deep, steady breath. Eris opened her eyes, looking at me in disbelief. "You saved me again." I exhaled in relief. "I told you, I won't let you go." The storm outside began to clear, and the ship's beacon blinked in the distance. The emissary gave me a knowing nod. "Let's go home," I whispered. With Eris leaning against me, we made our way back to the ship. As we lifted off, leaving the frozen wasteland behind, I held her hand tightly, feeling its warmth return. She turned to me with a small, grateful smile. "You are more than what I expected, human." I smiled back. "So are you." As we soared into the stars, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning.